The following is a presentation on the UFSN network. Welcome to the UFAFL Nation.
I am your host, Michael Skrz. Welcome in to a special episode of UFAFL Nation. We got a big one today as we got John Surdilla waiting in the wings and his Silverbacks ready to take on Ross Mongrue and the Legion. We will get to those guys shortly. But first of all, guys, you guys can follow me on Twitter at MichaelSKRZ. You can follow the league scouting report headed by Jamie Thomas there, UFAFL_scouting. The UFF Sports Twitter accounts there as well. If you have any questions for us at all, you can email us at info@uffsports.com. And then the website is there at the bottom of the screen as well for any other information that you might want to check out for the league. So remember, after the interview, guys, it's going to be all the same stuff. We're going to preview the 4 wildcard games. We're going to take a look at the other UFAFL matchups this weekend, my stock up and my stock down, and then my best bets. Guys, do not forget to check out the UFAFL store. Valentine's Day right around the corner, so you guys can go pick up something for your significant others. It's getting kind of chilly out here. I wouldn't mind putting some coffee into a travel mug of some sort with a cool UFAFL logo. I'm not rocking my UFAFL hoodie or my t-shirt today. Sorry, Darren, but it's the weekend for my boys. I don't think I'm going to be changing out of my Titans jersey, representing the old Eddie George, who actually made me become a Titans fan. So really looking forward to Saturday's game. Well, with that, we might as well start off the interview, and let's bring in our fellas here. We got Ross and we got John on the line. Boys, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Ready for this weekend.
It'd be better if I wasn't playing John.
Really? So for people that don't know, you guys are actually great friends. And you guys have been playing in leagues even before the UFAFL. So, John, was it Ross that roped you in? Or were you the one that brought Ross into fantasy football? How did that work?
Yeah, Ross roped me in. I was like inundated with all these leagues already. I couldn't take any more. So I was going to be his assistant. And it just ended up being he's going to another team, and the team that he was originally with needed a GM. So I ended up being their GM. So, and now here we are. Face to face. Too soon, I hope. I was hoping to see him later on, but I don't know. I guess we got to face each other at some point.
Yeah, so, Ross, you're going to be able to put your best foot forward against your friend this week? How are you feeling about the matchup?
I mean, we're confident. We're confident for sure, but we're gonna keep the fingers crossed. Put the rally cap on, and whatever we got to do to get this win.
I love to hear that. All right, John. So I want to break down your roster first. So going into the playoffs, you got George Kittle, you got Ryan Suckup, you got Chris Jones, you got Levi Wallace. So all good offensive piece, got some good defensive pieces. But then the player draft happened on Wednesday, and you went skill position heavy. So Tyreek Hill was your first pick, then Joe Mixon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Julio Jones. So you kind of have like bits and pieces in all 4 games upcoming this weekend. What was the strategy going to the player draft? Was it always just to go skill players heavy, or is that just how the draft landed for you?
Yeah, skill players go fast. So I think you gotta lock those up as soon as you can. And going into the draft, I had my top 4 teams, but you gotta find a balance between advancing to the next level and maximizing your games per player. So it just ended up. I didn't have Cincinnati as one of the top 4, but I ended up with Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon because I just need the points. I got to make sure that you got to advance. That's the most important thing.
Going to be tough against the stout Titans defense. Not going to lie. Ross, we were chatting in the break before we came on, and holy moly, did you go Rams heavy? So you had Van Jefferson from the regular season, and then you went Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Cam Akers. So you're praying for a Rams victory this weekend, 100%.
Rams all the way to the Super Bowl, baby. Let's go.
So was that the strategy to go all Rams, or was it just like that was just best player available, so you had to take him?
That's just the way the board fell. That's really just the way the board fell for me. I really wasn't. I did not think that Akers would be there in the third. Kind of looking at it, I can remember I definitely was saying that, okay, it's going to be a choice for me between A.J. Dillon or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I'm sitting there, heat wave come up, and they go Dillon. And I was like, oh, man, I really didn't expect that. And next thing you know, the Sharks pass on Akers. And there he was. And I'm telling you, it was hard for me to be like, man, it's so many Rams. I'm going to be so Ram heavy. I've got to, hope for a shootout here. But it's one of the highest over-unders that Vegas has right now. So I was comfortable with going with it out of the 4 games for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, that should be a fun game, man. It's hard to bet against Brady, but I do think it's going to be a shootout. I can definitely see both teams getting up towards 30 points. So hopefully for you, the Matthew Stafford can find these guys, because I've seen him in the last couple of weeks. Last week, Monday night, he had a decent game against the Cardinals. Yeah, okay. As long as you know, because can't always trust Stafford in big games, but.
I'm aware. I'm a diehard Georgia Bulldogs fan, so to be completely honest, I was not a huge Stafford fan when he was at Georgia. But I just think that, man, Cooper Kupp, Stafford, they've been on fire all year, and it's like they had. I'd say it was a down week for those two last week, and say, it's time to come win it this week.
And that Tampa secondary is suspect. Sorry, John?
Oh, that Cooper Kupp and the Stafford stack is just lethal, and I'm just hoping that they have the same kind of output as they had last week, and my offensive player.
If we go by last week, it's still 50-something points, because I think Cooper had 17 and Stafford had 33, I believe.
But
so we need Stafford to stay there and Cooper to come on.
Oh, this is funny. So I can tell that you guys. Sorry, I want to get this going in another direction. So you guys are obviously friends. I can tell you guys have good chemistry together. So you guys have obviously played in leagues before you got into the UFAFL. John, how did you get involved with this league? Because I know you've been playing fantasy for a long time. So I'm just wondering, like, was it Ross that brought you in? Was it somebody else that brought you in? How did you get involved with UFAFL?
It was Ross. I start,
he gets so sick of me every year going, hey man, you want another league?
Yeah. I got enough leagues, and then I can be your assistant. But I think it's just a big evolution from just the redrafts. Then it goes to the keeper leagues, then to dynasties, and then you bring in the IDP aspect into it, and then contracts come in, and it's this league is like nothing I've ever seen. We have the offensive lineman component,
100%,
and we go 53 deep on active, and we have a practice squad, 16-man active practice squad, and we got IR, and it just mirrors the NFL in like ways that no other leagues ever have. So I'm pretty fortunate that Ross brought me into this league, and I'm happy that I'm here this far.
Awesome. And same question to you, Ross, because you're very involved. Like, you're always building graphics and stuff for us. Like your work is always on our show. So I'm just curious, how did you get involved with the league?
Max. Actually, I've been on Max's Dynasty group on Facebook for a while. And he reached out to me, and he's like, hey, man, you're always active on Facebook. This is something you should check out. And, of course, as soon as I checked it out and started reading about it, I was like instantly like, oh, I'm going to buy a team. No problem. Yeah, I'm definitely buying a team. So I can remember I talked to John. I'm like, John, we got to get a team in this. And then me and John started seeing the numbers that were getting thrown around. And we're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Pockets are not that deep. So we're glad that we can, run a team for somebody. And I mean, definitely huge shout out to the other leagues that we are in. We are in, one of our leagues is the USFL, and it mirrors basically this league. It's a 45-man roster, and I believe we have we don't do as many starters, but we have, I want to say, 20-something starters with between IDPs and regular offensive guys. So this league was yes, it is a whole nother monster, but it wasn't a huge step up for me or John for this, and it was something that we were like, oh yeah, this is definitely.
Yeah, the whole is for monsters. Okay, but
sorry, no, we lost you guys for a sec there. All good. Yeah, so this is just basically an amped up version of your other leagues, and like plus the salary cap, like it's beyond any other fantasy football league I've been involved with. The strategy that goes behind it, offensive line, that strategy, like that's a whole nother level of thinking about fantasy football. But it's been a fun year to track, guys, and for you to, one of you guys are going to go to the conference final. I can't wait to see and hear your trash talk tweet. Well, thank you once again to Ross and for John for taking the time. I love that chat. It's nice to see that two friends are going against each other this weekend, so I'm looking forward to the trash talk between them. And hey, one of them is going to go to the conference finals. Ross and the Legion have been pretty consistent all year. The Silverbacks were real good, the 5 seed, and they got in. They had a nice win on wildcard weekend, so should be an exciting battle, and it's nice to see that the relationship will be able to get through this 100%. So let's move on to the NFL preview. And oh boy, guys, we're starting off with a banger. Is the Tennessee Titans take on the Cincinnati Bengals. The big matchup for me this week is like, can the Titans just slow down that offense? Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are obviously on fire. The Titans, they enter as 3.5-point favorites this week. However, the big factor about this one, Derrick Henry should be back. He's been out since week 8 with a foot injury. Still awaiting the official word, but all signs point to Derrick Henry playing this weekend. I've been doing nothing but creeping Titans Twitter, watching all the practice viz. So that's obviously huge for Ryan Tannehill and the offense because they're just a lot better. They've only had 120 snaps together with Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Julio Jones on the field this season. So I'm just curious to see how this Titans offense goes. The play-action pass game should do well for Tannehill, should open things up, especially in the middle of the field. The Titans, they were the 1 seed this year, and I do think that they have advantage in the trenches on both sides of the ball. The defensive line for the Bengals is a little bit banged up, as is the offensive line. I think they have a backup right tackle. The right guard position has been kind of a problem for them all season. The Titans, 3 players with over 8 sacks this year. They're the only team in the NFL with that stat. So for the Titans, they're going to need to get pressure on Joe Burrow with just their front 4. Joe Burrow's like his like QBR is 35 points higher when you blitz him because they have all these good weapons out there, and Burrow's able to get the ball like quickly. So if the Titans front 4 can generate enough pressure on Burrow to make his day a little bit longer, I think the Titans can win. That line 3.5. A little bit fishy. I do think the Bengals are good enough to keep this close. However, I do see the Titans pulling this one out. And then the Saturday night game. Will Aaron Rodgers exercise his demons against his hometown San Francisco 49ers? The Packers enter this one as 6-point favorites. Rodgers is 0-3 in his playoff career against San Fran. But for the Packers, they've been getting healthier as of late. So offensive tackle David Bakhtiari came back the final week of the regular season. They might be getting Zadarius Smith this weekend, as well as Jair Alexander, a couple of huge pieces for that defense. So the big matchup I'm looking at this week is the San Francisco run game. Can they keep Aaron Rodgers off the field? Can they, like, is Jimmy Garoppolo, is he going to have to do everything himself? Obviously, Deebo Samuel and Eli Mitchell have been absolute horses for the 49ers this week. They were great against the Cowboys in the wild card weekend. Green Bay right now, they're 26 in DVOA against the run and the 31st in yards per rush for opponents. So that's the matchup I'm looking for. Hopefully for the 49ers, Nick Bosa and Fred Warner are playing. They're two studs on the defensive side of the ball, because you're going to need as much help as you can to slow down the Packers offense. I've been saying the Packers are the favorite in the NFC for a long time. Rodgers is probably going to win the MVP this year. And then with Aaron Jones, you got A.J. Dillon in the backfield, Devontae Adams. Fortunately, no MVS for the Packers. He's doubtful to play this week. But when you have Rodgers, Adams, and those two studs in the backfield, this one should be close. The 6-point spread looks a little bit high. I think the Niners will probably be close in this into the fourth quarter. And let's just see if Garoppolo can make one or two big throws. And then let's move to Sunday's games. We talked a lot about the Rams with Ross and John. It's the Buccaneers taking on the Rams. Can the Bucs overcome their injuries to stop this dangerous Rams team? That's what I'm looking at. So Leonard Fournette, he's questionable to come back after his hamstring issues over the last month. And then when you watch that game this past weekend against the Eagles, two offensive linemen for the Bucs got hurt. Tristan Wirfs, the right tackle, he has an ankle injury. And then center Ryan Jensen also has an ankle injury. Jensen is he's more likely to play. Wirfs is still questionable. If you don't have that solid O-line going against this Rams defense, we saw what Aaron Donald did and Von Miller. Von Miller got a sack against Kyler Murray on Monday night. So Brady and the boys, they've been hurt the last couple weeks entering the playoffs. So no Chris Godwin, obviously no Antonio Brown. This is going to be a heavy Mike Evans and Rob Gronkowski game. Is Jalen Ramsey going to shadow Mike Evans? He's had success against him in the past. This should be a fun one. I can't always bet against Brady. Like, betting against Brady usually doesn't do well for you, especially your pocketbooks. But the Rams are hot right now. They're the healthier of the teams. I can see the Rams pulling this one out, going against the Packers in the NFC title game. And then Sunday night is probably the matchup we are all really looking forward to. It's the Bills and Chiefs. It's a matchup of Week 5. Can Josh Allen outdo Patrick Mahomes? I think that's the big question. The Chiefs enter this one as 2.5-point favorites. Remember, Buffalo trounced these guys back 38-20 back in Week 5. The Chiefs turned the ball over 4 times, and Josh Allen was an absolute stud that game. However, the Chiefs' defense has really bounced back the second half of the season, and the Bills are missing Trey White in this rematch. So you don't have your best corner shadowing Tyreek Hill. So I'm curious to see how the Bills' defense will be able to slow down this Chiefs' offense. We saw what they did against the Steelers after a slow start in that first quarter last week. Mahomes threw 5 touchdowns in like 11 game minutes. So I want to see how they try to cover Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And the running game for the Chiefs has been a lot better the last couple weeks. We saw Jerick McKinnon. He did to the 49. What he did this to the Steelers last weekend, and they're getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire back. So I don't think this is going to be a low-scoring game, even though both defenses are playing well. There's too many weapons on both sides of the ball. The rushing defense for the Bills, I'm a little skeptical about. I was skeptical against them last weekend as well against the Patriots, but they kind of shut that down. But this should be a good game. I don't really have a feeling one way or the other. The Chiefs are at home. I think it's hard to beat the Chiefs twice in a season. So I'm probably leaning towards the Chiefs, but I'm just going to sit back with popcorn and wait to see who the Titans play in the AFC title game. So let's move on to the UFAFL Preview. And a couple upsets last week. Both 7 seeds were able to advance. So the brackets look like this. In the Manning division, it's the 1 seed, the Heat Wave, taking on the Blitz in the 7 seed. And then the Tiger Sharks taking on the Paradise Blackhawks. And over in the Madden Conference, it's the Circus Sport Trout, the undefeated Trout, taking on the Kenwest Gladiators, the 7 seed. And then we previewed the other matchup with the Legion, taking on the Silverbacks. It's a 3 versus 5. So when I look at these matchups, my first thought was, is there another 7 seed? Which of these teams can pull off another upset? So the Blitz and the Gladiators, they obviously shocked the UFAFL last weekend with wins over the Hydra and the Empire. So I'm looking at the player drafts for both of these guys. For the Blitz, they went receiver and defense heavy early. So they got Mike Evans, they got T. Higgins, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, and Jimmy Garoppolo as their quarterback. The Gladiators took Aaron Rodgers in the first round, grabbed some Bills weapons. They got Cole Beasley. They took Dawson Knox. They're a little thin at running back. But that's the one thing about the UFAFL. You might be weak in a certain spot, but you can have a defensive touchdown. You can have some receivers go off. Maybe your O-line just does way better. I'm really looking forward to see if these 7 seeds can pull an upset. And then let's go to the Tiger Sharks. Can they continue their winning ways? They ended the regular season on a 12-game win streak, and now they take on the Paradise Blackhawks in the divisional round. They might be my favorite team heading into the divisional because they are riding heavy with the Titans. So they had Ryan Tannehill and A.J. Brown in the regular season. That carried over. And then with the 3rd overall pick in the player draft on Wednesday, they took Derrick Henry. So they're obviously praying for a Titans win. They also took Rob Gronkowski and Tyler Higbee, so they're pretty set at the tight end position. This matchup won't be easy, though. The Blackhawks, they got Patrick Mahomes and Jamar Chase. Chase, obviously, as a Titans fan, scares me because he can go off for over 100 yards and a couple scores. He's a big play guy as well. And it's hard to bet against Mahomes, especially with this Bills secondary who doesn't have Trey White. So I think this will be a really close matchup. I'm just really excited to see it. Tiger Sharks are due for a loss, but hopefully for me, my Titans, it doesn't happen this week. Silverbacks and the Legion, they are both riding win streaks entering the matchup. A little behind the scenes here, guys. We didn't expect to have Ross. I thought it was just going to be John. So I had them part of this conversation. So we chatted with John all about the Silverbacks. So they're riding a 5-game win streak, as are the Legion. They're both on 5-game win streaks. It's pretty crazy. We talked about how heavy they are with the Rams. The Legion are. They also got Gabriel Davis and Demarcus Robinson. So they went pretty wide receiver heavy in the playoff draft. I expect this matchup to be really close. And hopefully for both these guys, it's just fun for both of them. And Ross is trying to recruit me for a couple dynasty leagues with them as well. I think they're just trying to hustle me to get my money because I see how close of friends they are. But thank you once again, guys, for taking the time. And good luck to both of you guys in this matchup. So let's move over to my favorite segment. It's Stock Up and Stock Down. And my Stock Up is for a player who I probably had, I think, earlier this year on my Stock Down. And it was Rams receiver Odell Beckham Jr., who has assimilated himself greatly with the Rams so far, especially the last couple weeks. You look at it over his last month with the Rams, he's got touchdowns in 3 of his last 4 games. He's got an 83.5 snap percentage during that span. So they're using him on the field often. Remember, Robert Woods got hurt, and this is the reason why they brought him in. They didn't want everybody just double and triple teaming Cooper Kupp. And then with Cam Akers back, it's even opening things up even more. Even Sony Michel, like the Rams are just able to run the ball, and it's opening things up for Odell. And we talked about it in the preview. Like, I'm just expecting a shootout between the Rams and the Bucs. The Bucs have a suspect secondary. They've had injuries in and out. They've had COVID issues. And the Rams are going to need to score. So I just expect Odell to probably have a big game. And then even if he doesn't have a big game, I just think going forward, hopefully in the offseason, he stays with the Rams. He's proven that it wasn't just him in Cleveland. And I think that's all just good signs looking forward to Odell Beckham's 2022 outlook. And then we can move over to my stock down. And you can't really say there's a stock down in the playoffs because there's all good teams remaining. So I'm kind of looking into the offseason this year. And the Las Vegas Raiders 22 outlook is a stock down for me. Now, they had a tough game last week in Cincinnati. They were actually in it into the last possession since he picked off Derek Carr in the last play of the game. And then you're looking forward. So the general manager, Mike Mayock, was relieved of his duties this past week. So they don't have a coach, and now you don't have a GM. And then now Derek Carr is a potential trade candidate. I think Carr has one more year left on his deal. If the Raiders just want to go to a full-blown rebuild, I don't really know if they should do that. You have some good players right now. Carr's proven to be, at times, like he could be a top 10 QB in this league. Remember, guys, he lost Henry Ruggs. He lost his coach, and they were still able to make the playoffs. Now, their road to the playoffs wasn't a murderer's row. They played a lot of backup QBs in that time. You remember the miraculous Sunday nighter against the Chargers. But if they're restarting, I know their coach Bisaccia, he's getting an interview. I know Carr wants him, Max Crosby wants him. So there's just so many questions with the Raiders heading into the offseason that there might be a rebuild. You might trade Derek Carr. If you have any of the weapons on the Raiders aside, like Darren Waller, you could probably guarantee. But who knows who's going to play quarterback for the Raiders? So they have some decent weapons. Josh Jacobs is obviously a stud, but I can't really predict the direction the Raiders are going to this offseason. and coming off a playoff berth, it's just all kind of confusing to me. So right now, my stock down is just for the Raiders' outlook for next season. And then the last part of this show I want to get to, guys, is my best bet segment. I was wrong last week. I'm hoping to bounce back this week with another potential upset. I didn't have any of the 2 seeds losing. I think I had the 3 seeds losing. And Ross, sorry, buddy, I didn't mean to disrespect you at all. But I'm going to look at another potential upset this week. And I think the Can West Gladiators versus the Skrz Sports Trout. I know, guys, I know about the Trout being undefeated this year, but we're not talking about the regular season rosters because the Trout basically lost all their good players because none of them made the playoffs. So what I was looking at with the player draft is who was going to draft the better offense. And the Trout went really, really heavy. So, they got Josh Allen with their first pick. And then they went Aaron Jones, Tyler Boyd, Brendan Ayuk, Emmanuel Sanders. So there's lots of boom or bust potential with this offense because they're taking guys who they're probably not even the best options of their team. So if none of these guys score touchdowns, I think this leaves the door open for the Gladiators. The Trout do have some good defensive pieces as well. They got Nick Bosa, you got Greg Russo, you got Levante David and Harold Landry. And Kevin Byard, they got kind of late in the player draft. I was kind of surprised with how many picks he has and how involved he is with the defense. So I'm just thinking there's a potential upset here because the Trout's not able to carry all these guys over. The Gladiators have already shocked us once in the playoffs this week. Could they do it again? It wouldn't shock me, guys. This league is so crazy. You never know. Maybe a pick six, a couple fumbles. Maybe Josh Allen doesn't have the great week that we're all expecting. And because of that, I think the Gladiators can really pull this off. And that's it for this episode, guys. Once again, check out the UFAFL store. A lot of good things happening over there, guys. A lot of hard work behind the scenes. So support the boys. I'll try to throw on the UFAFL shirt or hoodie on next week. No promises, though, if the Titans smash the Bengals this week. Thank you for all the boys behind the scenes. Shout out to our boy Dean Millard. Hope you get better, fella. We don't have you on this week. But thank you to Darren and the crew. We got Michelle doing the graphics. Thank you so much. Rolf and everybody else at IKS helping put this thing together this week. A little patchy, but we got it done, guys, and I appreciate all the hard work that was put into this episode. Ross and John, thank you guys for joining us once again, and we will catch you guys next week. Tighten up.